Let me just say, life is getting kind of uncomfortable over there at Disney and ABC News because the new head of the FCC, one Brendan Carr, working for Donald Trump, is already getting started. The inauguration hasn't even happened yet, and yet Brendan Carr is firing off letters to the CEO of Disney, Bob Iger, saying that, this isn't cool, that ABC has basically had this erosion in public trust. In other words, the news network is a problem. Take a look at this, you guys. Okay, so just a couple of days ago, just before the holiday and about 10 days after, they settled that $16 million suit there. Well, it was actually a multi-billion-dollar suit, but they settled for $16 million. $15 million to the Trump Library and another $1 million going to the lawyers for Donald Trump. Well, Brendan Carr says, you know what, there's this erosion in public trust, hey, ABC, and I'm kind of concerned about it, especially when it comes to licensing all your little networks all over the country. They have an affiliate system, you see there, at ABC News. And so he wrote that, quote, ABC's own conduct has certainly contributed to this erosion in public trust. For instance, ABC News recently agreed to pay $15 million to President Trump's future presidential foundation and museum and an additional $1 million in attorney's fees to settle a defamation case. In other words, he's able to use that, you see, against Iger and against ABC. So it's not like they're retreating as a result of that $16 million that they're getting. No, in fact, this actually gives them more ammunition. In other words, the public is so sick of you guys. You do such stupid stuff. You admitted that you do stupid stuff. You admitted it. You got the stupid guy on air that keeps making allegations of stuff that didn't happen, that's not true, that the judge never said Donald Trump was guilty of. And so George Stephanopoulos, he knew it, by the way, he knew it. His producers told him, don't say it. He said it anyway. Why would he do that? Other than to perhaps influence the outcome of an election. So now ABC News has to give an apology, has to give all this money, and now Brendan Carr is saying, okay, well, that's proof. That's proof you guys are no good. And so he's going to be kind of heavy-handed. Typically you get an FCC chair, and I bet you couldn't even name him, right? I happen to know him because a lot of these people I've interviewed many times and I know personally. But I would say that the FCC is not the most glamorous of jobs. And I think suddenly that's about to change. Sorry, Bob. Sorry, Bob. Elon doesn't like you either, so you're kind of in a tricky scenario here. DeSantis doesn't like you very much either. I mean, I think there's a whole bunch of Republicans that are really not very big fans of one Bob Iger. Maybe he'll actually finally retire over all this. There's a good piece in the New York Post, well, it's everywhere being reported, that basically what this is going to come down to are those affiliate licenses. So apparently somehow CNN gets their hands on this letter, which they haven't actually shared, but they've shared excerpts from the letter, including quotes like, you've already basically shown your own conduct has certainly contributed to this erosion in public trust. That was one of the little tidbits. But they've also pointed out that ABC, because it has to negotiate all these affiliate deals, is actually in a very vulnerable spot. You see, local TV stations, they're licensed by the FCC. They get their license. They're actually much more trusted than the national networks, but the national networks are the ones that provide them the programming in between their local stuff. So you get it, right? You're watching your local news in the morning, and then all of a sudden, Good Morning America comes on. Or you're watching some other local program, and then The View comes on. And after a while, you're probably like, why do I have this national network news programming? I mean, I like my local station, but what do I have to deal with these wackadoos over at the network like this one?
All of you. Talking about you, it's us. He's not going to say, oh, you're with a white guy, I'm going to keep you from being deported. No, he's going to deport you and put the white guy with someone else. The man is out there. He's also...
That was Whoopi Goldberg suggesting that Donald Trump was going to break up marriages. I mean, it's just really, really like interracial marriages somehow. That was where she was going with that. I mean, she's crazy, right? I mean, she's spitting whenever she says Donald Trump's name, literally spitting. She spit on set when referring to a former president of the United States who was then the Republican nominee just one, to become president again.
Listen, take him seriously and take him literally.
I don't think that we have to. I think it would be remiss of us to not say Joe Biden knows how to do this.
Yes.
He knows how to do this. He's quite good at this. And you know, you can't refute anything with him because he just, when I say him, I mean...
He rambles.
Trump.
Yeah.
He tends to just...
But can I mention one thing?
And then the audience gets the clap sign. So you see, all these local channels all have ABC News affiliates. They get their license from the FCC. But that means the FCC has a little sway, a little control, perhaps should they try to use it. Now, again, I'm a big believer in the First Amendment. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I guess it's her business that she wants to spit. But when they continue to promote so many lies or so many hateful things, like, for example, the time that, Whoopi said somehow when the now president-elect was nearly assassinated, came within millimeters of dying. Somehow it was his fault. Do you not think that that's going a little bit too far, maybe just a little bit too irresponsible?
JD, clearly you've not been to one of your boss's rallies because you believe this insanity. I mean, he has been inciting violence since 2016, telling them to beat up hecklers, threaten to shoot looters and migrants. They have, I don't remember Bill Clinton about what was going on in his White House when it was sprayed by 29 shots. I don't remember Obama blaming opponents when his White House was shot up in 2011. You have to really take a look in a mirror to see the reflection. One of the reasons that everybody has survived is because the Secret Service has been doing their job. Let's start with that. That's, so quit blaming folks until you decide to take a look at what's coming out of your mouth. You didn't want to tell people that it was a lie that you've been talking about when you're sending people to go against folks in the community, in Ohio. You know it's a lie. But you talk about, well, Joy, you're going to bring it up. Yeah. Because you know what he did. Well,
J.D. Vance.
Yes,
but besides all the...
So just to be clear, that was Whoopi Goldberg, who is very incoherent most of the time, trying to somehow suggest that he brought this on himself. He deserved to get shot. What is this? Is this the United Healthcare thing? You know, you deserve it because you work for a health insurance company. You deserve it, Donald Trump, because we don't agree with you, and because of some of the things that we don't like that you said, even though we take them out of context nonstop, because we don't like those things. Somehow it's okay. Listen, I'll tell you, the media's got to watch it here. Like, there should be some self-policing. Like, you should have some restraint, some control. You should take on some level of responsibility. And so now Brendan Carr's coming along and saying, okay, you know, if you guys don't want to take it on, maybe I'll take it on for you, which is now why. Now we know. I mean, George Stephanopoulos, I understand, is out a fair bit of change because they're making him contribute to this deal too, the $15 million that Donald Trump is going to be getting for the library and the $1 million for the legal fees. George Stephanopoulos having insisted on saying that the president was guilty of a pretty damn heinous crime when the judge had never concluded that. And he said it over and over and over again, despite everybody telling him not to. Now we know why he said this. I'm going to play you this clip. This happened 2 days before the election, you guys. 2 days. And he's like pleading with America. This is the most consequential, No, it's not consequential to anybody other than you, buddy, and your bottom line.
Good morning and welcome to This Week. It is almost over. What comes next is anyone's guess. What we do know is this. No election since the Civil War has posed such a test of our constitutional system. Whether to accept election results and the peaceful transfer of power has never been on the ballot like this. The stakes in this election are as high as it gets. The differences between the candidates are as stark as it gets. And as we emerge from the final weekend, the polls suggest that this election is as close as it gets.
Yeah, and guess what? It wasn't really that close. Donald Trump trounced her. Okay, Georgie Pie. So just to be clear, yeah, obviously it was an important election, important for so many reasons on so many different levels. And I just have to say, thank goodness, thank God, right? We're not dealing with another 4 years of that. I don't know as I could have handled it. I mean, I can handle anything. I'm here for you guys no matter what. But like that would have been pretty darn awful for our economy, for our border, for our culture, etc. So it was important for that reason. But Georgie's going on about how important it is important because it was important for him. And it was important for his livelihood and his company. And now he has to pay all this money and his company has to pay all this money. And if you look at Variety, for example, I had said the same exact thing. There's actually fear about his future. Apparently, he's re-signed a deal according to the LA Times. But that doesn't really mean much. I would not be surprised if they were able to negotiate, one, a much lower fee for little George, literally, little George. And I would not be surprised if they were able to get an out in there somehow. Because I'm not sure how much longer he stays on the air. Honestly, like he should just do the GMA thing, do the entertainment thing, stay out of politics, get off of that This Week show. That may happen. It may happen because I'm not so sure that Bob Iger can handle the pressure now of having the FCC on his tail like this. And now all the affiliates across the country, they're going to take issue with Iger. So Brendan Carr, again, you see him if you're watching the show live. Terrific. I'm going to go to some of your comments at the end because, yes, we're over 500,000 subs now. Amazing. Thank you, guys. We have to talk about that. The journey and what's next to come. Anyway, Carr had expressed concern over how ABC strike its affiliation agreements with local stations that carry the ABC shows. And he's positioning himself really as a friend to these local news networks because he said, and I quote in this letter that we got courtesy of CNN, I guess we know where Iger's friends are, quote, my understanding is that ABC is attempting to extract owners' financial and operational concessions from local broadcast TV stations under the threat of terminating long-held affiliations, which could result in blackouts and other harms to local consumers of broadcast news and content. So what exactly is ABC trying to do? Trying to give a really bad deal to all those little affiliates around the country? Oh, you want to carry Whoopi? You got to pay us big time for her. I don't think anyone wants to pay for her or Georgie Pie. So he also flagged how Disney is, quote, prioritizing its global streaming services at the expense of local and freely accessible stations. A strategy employed by most major media companies that are trying to compete with streaming giant Netflix. This is per the New York Post. So yes, got it? Like streaming is everything, right? Like if you're not streaming, you're really nowhere. So The View is nowhere. ABC News is nowhere. But the streaming platform is actually valuable. And as much as Disney has stumbled with its streaming platforms, it's hanging on to that. He did go out and say he wants to get rid of ABC News. He wants to get rid of all his cable networks. This is one Bob Iger. He said this at Sun Valley, I think the summer before last. It's taken him a while. Apparently nobody wants to buy him. He wants to get rid of all of these legacy media properties and keep the streaming operations because that is the future. But he might have to do that a whole lot sooner. A whole lot sooner. I mean, I think the FCC is now coming for Iger and coming for ABC. I mean, there's some history there. I mean, in addition to Whoopi spitting every time she says the guy's name, in addition to Georgie having to cough up with his network $16 million, there's also just that little debate they had. Do you remember that debate that was so unbelievable? It was like 3 against 1, Kamala versus Trump. Kamala plus David Muir and Lindsay Davis, 2 anchors from ABC News, against Trump. That's actually what went down, and Trump was pretty upset about it and told Fox News just the day after the debate. Here they are listing all the things that ABC News anchors said that was totally false. Either Kamala said these things or ABC said some of these things totally false and nobody corrected them on it. Check it out.
Yeah, Mr. President, we kind of expected it because when you look at Media Research Center, they said 100% of the stories covered on ABC about Kamala 100% of the time was positive. 93% of the time when they covered you, it was negative. So it was infuriating to watch them fact check you and not her when she brought up IVF, when she brought up Project 2025 several times, and when she brought up Charlottesville. Here are some of the lies that she said about you. Listen.
A detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. If Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking.
And the bloodbath, you were talking about the economy. It's a term that's used a lot when people are talking about a bad economy. What's your reaction to why didn't the moderators correct her?
Because they're dishonest, and because I think ABC took a big hit last night. I mean, to be honest, they're a news organization. They have to be licensed to do it. They ought to take away their license for the way they did that.
Boom. Did you hear that? Let's play that again. I hope you guys heard that. He said they have to be licensed. They ought to take away their license for that. Fast forward to what we just saw this week with Brendan Carr.
I mean, to be honest, they're a news organization. They have to be licensed to do it. They ought to take away their license for the way they did that. Bloodbath was referring to the economy. Everybody loved the term because as soon as they heard the word, it's sort of a vicious word. But referring to the economy, they have created an economy. Bloodbath was the word that I used, and it was fine in that context. And they were trying to make it sound like there was a riot or something, and it was a bloodbath. IVF, I was a leader on IVF. The IVF, which is fertilization, I was a total leader on that. When I first heard about it, like right from the beginning, I was one of the leaders on it, and the Republican Party has been a leader on it. She tried to say it was just the opposite. The whole thing with abortion, what he said, I mean, it was incredible. I think he corrected me 6 times, and each time I was right. I believe each time I was right, didn't correct her at all, and she was saying these things. She was using, like, Charlottesville. She was using Charlottesville. And everybody, you take a look at Laura Ingraham, she did it incredibly. She had it totally debunked. She said that, in fact, it makes it angry. She gets angry.
Okay. So I think, I mean, you get the idea, right? Like they said a bunch of things that weren't true, and Donald Trump then was trying to correct them after the fact. They didn't correct themselves in real time. And he said something fascinating there, which is that it should be looked at whether or not they should have their license revoked. So now if Brendan Carr were to go in and revoke the licenses for all those affiliates, what happens then? The way these local markets work, you have one ABC affiliate, you have one NBC affiliate, and there's certain monopoly rules, so you can't own the ABC affiliate and the NBC affiliate. You have a CBS affiliate, you'll have a Fox affiliate, and those affiliations give you the programming that you have to take down, or you're supposed to take down, or you're offered in some cases. It depends on how you strike the agreement of the mothership. But when the mothership is so insanely flawed and offering such a flawed product, and then you have at the same time the administration saying, well, maybe we shouldn't allow you to have this affiliation, then you're going to have some problems on top of it, right? To Brandon's point, I mean, this is rather unbelievable. They're kind of making all these preferences for their streaming network, and they're not really putting the resources into the product they're supposed to be delivering. The affiliates, this business is changing. Like, that's what we're witnessing, guys, in real time. This is a massive shift, and it is flipping these people out. Oh my gosh, I have a bite. I'm going to play for you a sound bite later in the program from, that anchor that looks just like Rachel Maddow. On MSNBC, they can only get Rachel once a week, so they get this guy on 5 days a week. Anyway, he's losing it. He's so upset. This horrible streaming stuff and this social media, and oh my goodness, what has happened to the world? I'll tell you, it's great what has happened to the world. It really is. Like, these animal spirits have been unleashed in so many different ways